Bonjour and welcome back to a new session of Learning French with Merlyn, where I promise you pronunciation, vocabulary building, and you will have fun. So this is the most awaited video, I'm pretty sure, where we are entering into conversations, or as we say in French, conversation. We write it the same way, we just pronounce it differently. So now that we have covered pronom sujet and pronom disjunctif, we can confidently enter into conversations. Now, just to be very clear and just as a disclaimer, conversations can be in different ways. For example, I can ask you, what's your name? I can say, your good name, please. I can say, your name. I can say, may I know your name? All these are different ways of asking the same question. At the end of the day, what you're asking is, what's your name, right? So there are different ways you can ask a question and you can reply to it. So we won't be covering everything in a video. That's not possible. I've tried to include as many variations of asking questions and replying. Let's begin our session. The first dialogue, or in French, dialogue. So you see the same word, I'm just pronouncing it differently. So the first dialogue is between two girls. Okay, so I'll read it out. Bonjour Michel. Bonjour Alice, comment ça va? Ça va bien, merci. Et toi? Ça va mal. Ah, pourquoi? J'ai mal à la tête. Oh, bon rétablissement. Merci, c'est gentil. À bientôt. So this is our first dialogue. You would have understood a few words here and there. Come on. So let's go line by line. First of all, this conversation is between deux filles. Michel et Alice. Bonjour Michel. Bonjour, we had seen this in our greetings video. Bonjour is good day, good morning, all this. So bonjour Michel. And how does Michel reply? Bonjour Alice, comment ça va? Bonjour Alice, you know what it means. Comment ça va? Now that is new. It means how are you? And you can answer to comment ça va in two ways. Okay, so the first way you can say is I'm good. And the other way is I'm not feeling that well or I'm not doing good. So it'll be ça va bien or ça va mal. Now Alice replies with ça va bien and you will see that Michel replies with ça va mal. So ça va bien, merci. Et toi? Now here you will see that you use pronom disjunctif. You see? We are saying et toi means and you. Now these are two friends. What if the conversation is in a more formal setting? Then it would be et vous. So you can say ça va bien, merci. Et vous? That's also correct, but that's for a more formal setting. And here, since it's a friend, she's saying et toi? And Michel answers saying ça va mal. She's not doing great. And so what does the next person ask? Ah, pourquoi? Pourquoi means why. So what does Michel reply? J'ai mal à la tête. Mal means hurt. J'ai mal à la tête means I have pain or I'm hurt at my head. So you can say j'ai mal à la tête, j'ai mal aux yeux, j'ai mal aux pieds, j'ai mal à la jambe. So these are different body parts. So when we come into body parts, we can learn this much more in detail. The next one, Alice says bon rétablissement. Bon rétablissement is like good recovery, happy recovery, recover soon. All this is bon rétablissement. And Michel says, merci, c'est gentil. Merci, you would know. C'est gentil means it is kind of you. Gentil is kind. What is the opposite of gentil? It's cruel. How do you say it's cruel? It is méchant. Méchant. You can say c'est gentil means it's very kind of you. You can also say c'est méchant means it's mean, it's cruel, it's rude. You would have seen this word c'est a lot, right? It means it is. It is. So that's why I say it is kind of you, it is cruel of you. So in all these places you will say c'est gentil, c'est méchant, etc. And then she ends the conversation with à bientôt. So that was our first conversation where we learned one way of asking how are you, right? There are other ways. Let's go to the next conversation, which is in an interview. So it's a more formal setting. You would have gotten that. Bonjour, vous vous appelez comment? Je m'appelle Max. Comment allez-vous? Je vais bien, merci. Quel âge avez-vous? J'ai 24 ans. Now let's have the same conversation in an informal setting. Bonjour, tu t'appelles comment? The answer is the same. Je m'appelle Max. Comment vas-tu? And the answer will be the same. Je vais bien, merci. Quel âge as-tu? Answer still the same. J'ai 24 ans. So you saw that one of them is a formal setting and one is an informal setting. And you would have guessed the questions. So there are different ways of asking your name. What's your name in French? If you literally translate it, it's going to be, how do you call yourself? Okay? So, vous vous appelez comment? Vous vous appelez comment is for a more formal setting because you're using vous. And tu t'appelles comment is for an informal setting. Another way of asking the question will be to put the word comment in front. Okay? Comment means how. And then your question would be, comment t'appelles-tu? Okay, so that's also a right way of asking the same question. Now we saw comment ça va in our previous conversation, which meant how are you? Another way of asking how you're doing is comment allez-vous? Comment allez-vous? Now you see vous, so that's for a more formal setting. And when you say comment vas-tu? That has the word tu, so it's for an informal setting. So this is an easy trick for you to identify a formal and an informal conversation. And how would you answer it? You would say, je vais bien. Je vais bien. This means I am doing good. Now we had seen quel âge as-tu earlier. Now what is a more formal way of asking this question? It is quel âge avez-vous? And your answer will be j'ai 24 ans, 25 ans, whatever your age is. Let's move on to the third dialogue. Salut Max, comment vas-tu? Je vais bien, merci. Et toi, ça va? Ça va. Now this is between friends. How can I say it? Because of the word salut. Salut is always for an informal conversation. The conversation starts with Salut Max, comment vas-tu? Now we saw this earlier, so you would understand I'm asking if that person's doing good. And he answers by saying, je vais bien, I'm doing good. Et toi, again, pronom disjunctif. Okay, et means and, toi is pronom disjunctif, it means you. You can remove the comma and just say ça va. That also makes complete sense. So in English, you can say, how are you? You can say, are you fine? You can also say fine. And by the intonation, by the way you're asking, you can understand the question, right? So fine, that's what we mean when we say ça va. And his answer is ça va. Okay, that means it's an answer, fine. Now let's look at a small conversation, which is the fourth one, which is a full-fledged conversation. There's nothing missing in this conversation. Salut, ça va? Ça va. Et toi? Ça va. Now tell me, just with a few words, you can have a complete full-fledged conversation here. Salut means hello. Ça va? Now with my intonation. Intonation is the way you ask something. Right? So if my tone usually goes up, you know it's a question. And when it goes down, you know it's an answer. For example, ate, danced, and I can answer to it saying, danced. Now you know that the first one is a question and the second one was an answer. How do you know it? Because of the way I used my tone. So that is intonation. Okay? In French also you have this intonation. We will look at this later, but right now what you need to know is that the way you're talking can define whether it's a question or an answer. So let's get back to track. Salut, ça va? That's a question. Fine? And the answer is ça va. Et toi? Fine. And you? Ça va. Recap. What's your name? Or how do you call yourself? Now in French this will be vous vous appelez comment? It can also be tu t'appelles comment? Another way is comment t'appelles-tu? And the answer would be je m'appelle, whatever your name is. Now the second major thing we learned today is asking if you're doing well or if you're fine. The questions can vary over a wide range. It can be, how are you? All good? Doing well? Fine? Are you fine? All these mean the same thing. Comment allez-vous? Comment vas-tu? Comment ça va? Ça va? Now, I can also add two more here. Vous allez bien means you are doing well. Another way is tu vas bien. And your answers could be ça va means fine. You can be more specific and more precise by saying ça va bien or ça va mal. You can say je vais bien. All these mean I am fine, or I am doing good, or I am doing great, or I am not doing good. All these, okay? Now these are basics of conversations. You can start your conversations with this. We will have more and more sessions with conversations as and when we start learning more and more grammar. Now you would have understood why we actually had to concentrate on pronouns before we entered into conversations. Because we saw a lot of disjunctive pronouns, subject pronouns, and so many things that you would not have understood if we hadn't done those 2 sessions of grammar. In our next session, we will be looking at something very interesting and very important too. We look at articles. So there are different articles in English, and we haven't touched articles at all in French. We will look at that in our next sessions. Until then, au revoir.